The history of Stevensville is right here. We claim the oldest town in Montana. St. Mary's Mission and Fort Owen were settled starting in 1841, and St. Mary's name became Stevensville 33 years later. That was 25 years before Montana became a state in 1889. I'd like to share a brief history and a timeline of this church. The present church building was originally a grade school building constructed in 1885. It was on land that had been not been claimed and was granted to the Stevensville School District No. 2, Montana Territory. I had the privilege of knowing one of the founders in this area many, many years ago, and he told me that they had preempted on land, and I said, "What do you mean preempted?" "Oh, we stole it, that's all. We just stole it." You didn't have to, it wasn't like homesteading. You could just go in and say, "I want this, and I want that." That's what this land was right here where the building is. 37 years after the building was built, classes were moved into a new campus at the site where our present school building is, which is 2 blocks east of here. This building stood empty for 4 years until the Stevensville Women's Club bought it for $616, and it was used for a rental hall. Well, in September of 1927, the Women's Club sold half interest to the Methodist Episcopal Church South for $1, and the other half to the Methodist Episcopal Church North, which was also $1. And the Presbyterian were also in on using this building, and they alternated Sundays preaching here, but they had a combined Sunday school, so that was every Sunday. It was this later, it was a joint endeavor every Sunday for the Sunday school, but 20 years before the 2 churches, North and South, became one denomination at the national level, remember the Methodist, it became known as the Methodist Episcopal Church. The first full-time pastors were assigned prior to this time as part-time ministers or lay circuit riders, including Brother Van. In 1927, the first remodeling began in this building to make it a church out of the schoolhouse. The present upstairs 2 classes on the north side are much the same as the original school building was. The sanctuary ceiling is removed, and it became this high-ceiling sanctuary, and of course the balconies were part of the upstairs classrooms too. In 1928, the new building was dedicated with 220 people in attendance. The congregation had pledged to complete the construction without going into debt, and 1 year later it was finished and paid for. The cost was $11,000, and the value was then estimated at $27,000. A few interior changes and improvements have been made over the next 60 years, but that was a major change. In 1989, the old kitchen and the fellowship hall were replaced in this area over here by a church office and a nursery, plus a new addition later was added, the fellowship hall where we were having lunch, and the bathrooms were completed. Interesting historical tidbits are that the early heating was done by wood furnace and several individual stoves in various rooms. Later, heat was provided by coal to final gas central heat. Dedicated souls used to fire up the wood furnace very, very early Sunday morning. In 1930, a used pipe organ was purchased and installed in this alcove back here, and it was purchased by $1 donations, and it was finally $1,000 to get the pipe organ. I don't know if you noticed when you came in, but the writing quill atop the weather vane, rather than a traditional cross over the church, is a quill. The quill is a tribute to the school building heritage. The original school building bell still hangs in the belfry, and it is rung on special events like weddings. But we now have a lovely electrical chime that is played twice a day. The beautiful stained glass windows were purchased as a memorial to different people for $30 apiece. In researching this report, it was obvious the part women contributed to this church. First, as a Ladies' Aid Society, then in the early 40s, the Women's Society of Christian Service, WSCS, and in 1970 to the United Methodist Women. In 1990, the present building was placed on the National Historical Register.